I'm very fortunate that when I went to university, I sort of lived at home, but I always had a part-time job. And it was mainly around the fact at the time that my father was out of work because he was made redundant. Sorry about that. I didn't expect that. And so I decided to live at home at the time.
I just picked up on a bit of emotion there, and I think it's a surprise emotion with reference to your dad becoming unemployed and being made redundant, and you deciding intentionally to be at home. Talk to me around that.
I think, at the time, it was the early 90s. I think it was money. It was, it was a case of being able to afford to go to university, I think. And I felt what I could do was I had a part-time job. I was working for Sainsbury's. And I thought, well, I can still do that. I can buy a car, I can commute. I knew somebody was already going to be commuting to Brighton. And it just sort of came together and worked. Brighton was doing a course that was ticked all the boxes, if you see what I mean. And actually, in the end, it worked out all right. My dad was out of work for 6 months. He then went off to work for Kia, if I remember.
There we go. I knew
Henry Jones, I think he was at the time. So that was where it was. And I think going back to the 90s, there was a lot of redundancy in the time. And it was funny actually at the time. My dad said to me, "I don't want you to work in construction." But ironically, both my wife and I have ended up in construction. And actually, I love it. And I know why he gave that advice at the time. But I think the advice at the time was that in many different careers, if you see what I mean. I think the construction industry has changed quite a little bit in terms of diversity and inclusion, and sites work better and things like that. So I have a great relationship with my dad. We're into our normal subjects of cars and things along those lines. So and he's always likes to know what's going on at the old places in terms of work. He keeps an interest in it.
He's retired now.
He is indeed. Yes. Yeah.
So how did the redundancy affect him?
I think as anything, when somebody says you lose your job, it hits you for six. And I think, the loss of income and things along those lines is always difficult. My mum was working part-time at the time. But he, took it on the chin and picked himself up, got himself a job, working with my mum at the revenue and things along those lines. And he was going out getting interviews. He was doing a few plans at the time for houses because he was he could do that he was a planner by trade, but the things. So he made sure he could get some food on the table and things along those lines. But it was a tough 6 months.